Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. And I'd love to welcome here Katie Baker, who is a writer, trauma survivor, and publisher of The Universe Holds Your Hair Back. So we're going to get to know her, have a great conversation. Katie, tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just released my first book ever, so I'm just navigating that process. A few years ago didn't even know if I could ever really write a book, so it's been quite a journey and experience, and I'm excited to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity, first and foremost. Yeah, so I just kind of found myself at 47 years old and was successful from all outside appearances, really had it together, was had founded a couple nonprofits and so was leading those organizations. My kids were getting ready to head off to school and leave the house, and at 47, I just sort of found myself lost. I think I was overworking, over drinking, overeating, just kind of trying to do whatever I could to numb what I had been avoiding for 47 years, and decided to just change my entire life. And it really started with a conversation with my son when he was 18 years old that allowed me to realize like things had to change. It wasn't working anymore. And I think it was just the sort of that crucible moment.
I was in my late 30s and had a breakdown where my kids found me curled up in the closet. It's, I was like you, I held everything back for so long. And then I had a breakup that just kind of set things in motion and ended up in the hospital. And that's when everything just kind of came out. I was molested when I was little, and I don't hide that. I talk openly about it because I know that there's other people out there that have gone through that same thing, and it can be embarrassing, but we need to get it out. We need to talk to folks and do something about it. Don't hold that in any longer because just like you, I overate. I drank too much. I got real heavy into drugs for years and ended up having a heart attack when I was 36. So I can kind of sympathize. Do you mind talking about your experience?
Yeah, so I want to say first and foremost, it's very interesting you say that because I think the statistics that we currently have about abuse, and in particular sexual abuse for both men and women, are a lot different than what the numbers report. Because what I have seen, with my year of healing that I embarked on, why I wrote the book, is a lot more men have suffered from sexual abuse in particular that just don't talk about it. And, my cousins in particular, we had sort of similar journeys growing up with childhood abuse, and they suffered the ramifications of sexual abuse, and they didn't make it out, long story
Mm.
short. And so, yeah, my story really started with, growing up with uh, different stepfathers. I was given up for adoption because my biological father was a raging alcoholic, and I use that term rage in conjunction with the alcoholism. So was given up by him for adoption, and then my mom remarried and was sexually abused for 7, 8 years. And then she remarried, and he was physically and verbally abusive. So I sort of, by the time I graduated from high school, I had really struggled and suffered with different forms of abuse. And I think in our child rearing, it was like you buck up, you don't look back, you keep going. And so that buck up mantra actually kept me probably alive, to be honest with you, because it was a survival mechanism. Like, you grit through it, you get it done, you don't show what you're experiencing. However, at 47, I was like, I recognized when my son kind of sat me down and noticed what I was going through. And I had an emotionally bankrupt life. Essentially, I did everything that I was supposed to by society standards or the role of the mother, etc. List goes on, but I did it almost mindlessly, like, just this is what is going to be the best for my children or my best, for work, whatever, list goes on. Oh my gosh. I was seeking perfection when I recognized that it doesn't exist.
I don't know about your experience, but being a father, I love my children dearly, but I didn't show them the love and affection that they so much needed and deserved. I guess because I felt like I was bankrupt in a way. So did did you have that experience with your kids, or how'd
Yeah.
that go?
Well, what happened was I didn't think I wanted to have kids. I was adamant that I thought, oh, my childhood was too screwed up. I'll just screw up kids. No way. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. I was married, had, graduated from college, all the things. And when I got pregnant with her, my husband, who also had a tumultuous childhood, we looked at each other and we were like, we got to break the cycle. We got to
All
do
right.
it differently. So, ironically, and actually, my main role was like, how can I be the best mother and break this generational cycle of trauma and abuse with them? So I did it with, relentless determination. And so they really were raised with a quintessential childhood and very much loved. Thank God, because I pulled it off with all that childhood abuse and not really addressing it. But it was when, my kids were about 18, my son in particular, where I just started falling apart because something about that role kept me tethered to planet Earth. And not having that role or having them move on to the rest of their lives, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do, who I am, what this all means now.
I think I overcompensated not showing them the proper affection by buying them stuff all the time, spoiling
Yeah.
them.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't abuse them physically or sexually, but I think mentally I did because I kind of checked out. I was too much with the drinking and the drugs all the time and trying to numb my own self. And I didn't give them the proper love they should have had. And going through that breakdown and finally getting the help and getting to talk to someone about it, I've actually learned how to love them. And I can still see a little bit of resentment, especially from my daughter, but they understand what dad went through, and I think our relationship's getting a lot closer. Um, with the book, was that kind of a healing thing in itself?
Absolutely. There was something, so when I embarked on the year, what I referringly or call the year of healing, when I embarked on that year, I decided because I needed something to shake me out. And the talk therapy, nothing was working up to that point because I was in such deep denial. I decided and opted to use therapeutic psychedelics, and I researched it, did all the things, found very qualified facilitators, etc. But I decided like I'm at rock bottom. I have nowhere else to go but up. Nothing has worked. And when I decided to go into that year, I looked for memoirs. There's all time tons of awesome books about memoirs, in particular about like if you want to quit drinking, for example, and that are vulnerable and open and honest. But there wasn't really any memoirs that talked about therapeutic psychedelics and healing trauma. And so I decided like at the end of that year, like I think I got to write this book. And plus, when I was in those experiences, I was always like, write the book, write the book. That message would always come through, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so what I recognize though through writing the book is actually putting the stories to paper. I did a ceremony for example, with my mom, and we had to really look at our stuff and have frank conversations. And the being in the medicine allowed us to not take it personally, to reevaluate and reassess sort of our whole childhood. And that was a whole monumental healing where a lot of folks don't get the opportunity to heal like that with their parents, right?
Right.
And I think that was critical for our path forward. Like I raised my kids differently, but at the same time, you still have that tether. And so I think that writing the book and actually reading the audio book, I mean, it was like I wept, and I wasn't a big crier for myself. I wept. So it was almost as if it was leaving my body too at the same time, my mind, my body. And I was like, look, I've dealt with this now for 50 years. I'm ready for it to go away. Like, I don't want it define the first 50 years. I'll give it that, but I don't want it to define the second half of my life. No way. And so something about the book and then talking about it, just going down to the market and running into somebody who's read it and just hugging each other and crying allows me and them the opportunity to not talk about the weather, to talk about life. What is this thing that we're navigating and how can we do it better together as opposed to just keeping it all, you know, inside ourselves, which doesn't work. It comes out in other ways. It just spills over in really unhealthy habits or, behaviors.
How do you go about finding someone that can help you with the therapy, the using psychedelics?
Yeah, so for me in particular, I coupled my year of healing with an integration therapist. Integration therapists are aware of the psychedelic experience and can help you navigate, like when you leave a ceremony, because you can sometimes be raw and emotional, which is kind of the goal if you're going to do it right. You got to get through it, and it's not always easy, but it is difficult and beautiful. I think that there are retreat centers outside of the country that are really safe to use. I think it's really important now that I've experienced different facilitators and experiences. It has to be well researched, well reviewed, vetted, all the things. And so I was really fortunate that I kind of went to a retreat center out of the country, and then somebody would say, I went here and it was really awesome and beautiful. So I traveled a lot, but I also made sure that somebody I knew had been there and experienced it. And so I felt safe because that's really important, especially for well, anyone, but trauma survivors, you don't want to be harmed in that space. And we're really vulnerable in altered states of consciousness. And the goal is to heal from the past and not, put ourselves in a position of vulnerability where we can get harmed again.
Is there ever that temptation to abuse it?
Oh no, no, absolutely not. Number one, it's hard work. So you dig your heels in and you say, okay, I'm doing this, and all this stuff comes up, and I did it with the intention of healing. It was not recreational. I was like not even going to play around in that arena. I did, in high school, I traveled around with the Grateful Dead and that kind of stuff, and that was recreational. But even the group ceremonies that we did together, where we could speak, or an ayahuasca ceremony where you go very much internal and you don't speak. It's a very internal process. Um, that it was not something that I would want to, yeah, do every day. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you realize the transformation and the integration of that work in particular take time. And if you rush to did it every day, holy moly, yeah, there's only so much healing a person can handle, and they have to just integrate all of that.
I worry because I'd thought about that. I'd heard people talking about it, and I went and got mushrooms and decided, hey, I'm going to try this just to see.
Hmm.
And I guess for the years and years of abuse, they they don't do anything for me at all. I don't feel nothing.
Hmm.
And if I did, I worry because of my past that I would have used something like that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I have a really addictive nature That's just, growing up with that and alcohol and nicotine, that kind of thing. And yeah, this is just different. In terms of it doesn't really have those addictive properties, and you can't navigate through the world in the same way. And I think those particular medicines that come from the earth are meant to be revered,
Yeah.
and you understand the enormity of and the gift that you're being given. And I think there's just a respect that kind of comes with when you really get in that, like let's say an ayahuasca journey, when you're really in the trenches and the throes of that journey. It number one doesn't let you hide from your stuff, and number two, well, you gotta, fly to different areas to even use it. So it's not like you're gonna put it in your back pocket and take it when you get home, kind of thing.
Right, right. Now, do
Yeah.
you have a website?
Yeah, it's peaceandfirehealing.com. And then the book is called When the Universe Holds Your Hair Back. So there's a page on that website for the book as well.
Like, is it available like in bookstores, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so the When the Universe Holds Your Hair Back is available on Amazon, Ingram Spark, and then I also did the Audible. So there's an audiobook, an ebook, paperback, hardback, but Audible and Spotify too. So you can actually listen to me read the book.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
oh no, also, do you have social media?
Yeah. Yep. And that's Peace and Fire Healing on both Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn just a little bit. But yeah.
Hmm. Well, I have a subscription to Spotify, so maybe I can listen to it on there.
Yeah. I'll send you a code for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Katie, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing with us. And hopefully someone out there will be able to get some help.
Yeah, and thank you very much for your bravery in being able to tell your story because I think, whether you be male or female, we just need more people talking about this so that number one, it hopefully stops and protects others from this harm or potential harm. And then also, this is how we're going to make the world right, is just by speaking our truth and embracing each other with open arms.
I understand being a guy, that could be embarrassing, but don't hold back. Go find someone that you can talk to and get the help that you need. But again, Katie, thank you for coming on the show. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network